Good afternoon, fourth grade. Today we're going to continue reading in our novel, James and the Giant Peach. Before we get started, you have a quick write. It says, have you ever been on a long journey? Where did you go and how did you get there? Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the focus question. Our focus question for today is, why do the characters embark on a journey? How does this decision impact the outside world? Our vocabulary words for today are journey, and that's the act of traveling from one place to another. These characters are going on a journey to this mountain. The next word is embark. When you embark, you get on a boat or a ship. Sometimes you can embark a plane, and that's when you begin your journey. These sailors are embarking onto the ship. They're beginning their journey. And then the last one is impact, and that is the effect that something has. So this fist made an impact on the punching bag, and you can see that it actually busted open the punching bag. That's the impact. Go ahead and turn the page in your notes and get ready to use your CSPS strategy. And we're on page 37 at We're Off. Okay? We're off, someone was shouting. We're off at last. James woke up with a jump and looked around him. The creatures were all out of their hammocks and moving excitedly around the room. Suddenly, the floor gave a great heave as though an earthquake were taking place. Here we go, shouted the old green grasshopper, hopping up and down with excitement. Hold on tight. What's happening? Cried James, leaping out of his hammock. What's going on? Turn the page. The ladybug, who was obviously a kind and gentle creature, came over and stood beside him. In case you don't know it, she said, we're about to depart forever from the top of this ghastly hill and that we've been all living on for so long. We're about to roll away inside this great big beautiful peach to a land of what? Asked James. Never mind, said the ladybug, but nothing could be worse than this desolate hilltop and those two repulsive aunts of yours. Stop right there because we have information about our characters and setting. In box 1, we would write, the creatures inside the peach decide to cut the stem off the peach and roll down the hill to get away from James's aunts. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And you would write down this quote on page 38 that says, in case you didn't know it, she said, we're about to depart forever from the top of this ghastly hill that we've been living on for so long. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the setting. And for the setting, we would go back to page 37. And in box 2, we would write, the creatures and James are inside the peach the next morning. And James is woken up by the creatures shouting and the peach moving. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And for the quote, you would write down this quote at the bottom of page 37. James woke up with a jump and looked around him. The creatures were all out of their hammocks and moving excitedly around the room. Suddenly, the floor gave a great heave as though an earthquake were taking place. Press pause to write down the quote and play when you're ready to keep reading. We're at the top of page 39. We are listening for the problem. Hear, hear, they all shouted. Hear, hear. You may not have noticed it, the ladybug went on, but the whole garden, even before it reaches the steep edge of the hill, happens to be on a steep slope, and therefore the only thing that has been stopping this peach from rolling away right from the beginning is the thick stem attaching it to the tree. Break the stem and off we go. Watch it, cried Miss Spider as the room gave another violent lurch. Here we go. Not quite, not quite. At this moment, continued the ladybug, our centipede, who has a pair of jaws as sharp as razors, is up there on top of the peach, nibbling away at that stem. In fact, he must be nearly through it, as you can tell from the way we're lurching about. Would you like me to take you under my wings so that you won't fall over when we start rolling? That's very kind of you, said James, but I think I'll be all right. Just then the centipede stuck his grinning face through the hole in the ceiling and shouted, I've done it! We're off! We're off! The others cried. We're off! The journey begins, shouted the centipede, and who knows where it will end, muttered the other earthworm. If you have anything to do with it, it can only mean trouble. Nonsense, said the ladybug. We are now about to visit the most marvelous place and see the most wonderful things. Isn't that so, centipede? There is no knowing what we shall see, cried the centipede. Turn the page, and then the centipede says a poem, and we're going to go a little deeper into this poem in parallel teaching, but right now we're going to read it, and you need to listen for the problem. What problems might they encounter on their journey? We may see a creature with 49 heads who lives in the desolate snow, and whenever he catches a cold, which he dreads, he has 49 noses to blow. We may see a venomous pink-spotted scrunch who can chew up a man in one bite. It likes to eat 5 of them roasted for lunch and 18 for supper at night. We may see a dragon and nobody knows that we won't see a unicorn there. We may see a terrible monster with toes growing out of the tufts of his hair. We may see the sweet little bitty bright hen, so playful, so kind, and well-bred, and such beautiful eggs. You just boil them and then they explode and they blow off your head. A ferocious, surely you'll see, the normal gnat who stings. When it stings, you goes in at your knee and comes out through the top of your hat. You may even get lost and be frozen by frost. We may die in an earthquake or tremor, or nastier still, we may even be tossed on the horns of a furious dilemma. But who cares? Let us go from this horrible hill. Let us roll, let us bowl, let us plunge. Let's go rolling and bowling and spinning until we're away from Old Spiker and Sponge. 1 second later, slowly and assiduously, oh, most gently, the great peach started to lean forward and steal into motion. The whole room began to tilt over, and all the furniture went sliding across the floor and crashed against the far wall. So did James and the ladybug and the old green grasshopper and Miss Spider and Earthworm, also the centipede who had just come slithering quickly down the wall. We'll stop right there because we have information about the problem and the solution. In the centipede's poem, he talks about the creatures and the places that they might go, and towards the end, he starts to talk about how these adventures might even be dangerous. And so in box 3A, you would write, the centipede describes all of the adventures that they might go on in the peach. And some of the adventures are dangerous. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. For the quote, we could write down from stanza 6 2 of the lines, we may even get lost and be frozen by frost. We may die in an earthquake or tremor. Press pause to write down the quote and play when you're ready for the solution. And for the solution, even though the journey might be dangerous, they decide to go on it anyways. And so in box 4A, you would write, the centipede finishes cutting the stem of the peach, and the peach begins to roll down the hill. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And for the quote, we would write, 1 second later, slowly, insidiously, almost gently, the great peach started to lean forward and steal into motion. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the paragraph. And for the paragraph, it says, how does James respond to challenge? What does his response reveal about his character? And so you need to think about James's problem in this chapter. He's about to go on what could be a dangerous adventure. And he responds by deciding to go with the characters. He doesn't get out of the peach. He doesn't say, I don't want to go. Instead, he's excited about going.